Okay, I know I said last thoughts, but these are the last of the last. In my language, you call it last ntololo. Those are some of the words that remind me of Bulawayo, growing up in Bulawayo in the 90s. Fazgamatanyela, 10 past Sport, but anyway, you wouldn't know that. Anyway, and now, once you build a state that is robust internally, you now therefore have to build a Zimbabwe that is robust externally. We are now talking about your foreign policy. Okay. Who are your friends and why? Now, this globe, this earth, has got its global governance in order already. Okay? All countries fall within this global order, which is led by the United States and other Western nations. And then you will have the other countries that will seek to diverge from the global order to form their own alliances that seem to challenge the status quo of the world, the status quo of the West. Justified or not justified doesn't matter. It is usually because they want to fill in the gaps that sometimes the West is failing to fill in, or in rebellion to some of the things that they do not uh, agree with the West. They would have some kind of other formations. Talking of the USSR, Russia, which for some reason is a challenging the Western governance. And you could argue whether is Russia challenging USA, or is USA lacking a challenge and therefore creating a challenge in Russia, and Russia retaliating, so that we might have a Cold War, which we did not even need in the first place. I mean, we can see the same thing playing out with China. China was nothing in 1970. USA propped up China. China is what it is because of following the global standard and following the West. And the Western companies invested in China. But now Donald Trump says China, China, China. Now, I do not get into who is right, China or USA. That's not the point of why I'm bringing that up. The point I'm bringing it up is that Zimbabwe needs to create a foreign policy which is robust, which is in line with its developmental goals. I'm not interested in whether China is right or wrong or USA is right or wrong. I'm not interested in who is right between Russia and USA in Ukraine. I'm interested in the developmental goal of Zimbabwe. How do we align ourselves as a nation to take advantages of the global setup? As I told you that the globe, the original setup or the most dominant setup is the one that is led by the United States and the Western nations. Understand? You don't want to be aggressively against that, because you are starting a war that is very big, unless if you have really fundamental reasons for doing that, of which I think we do not have in Zimbabwe. I don't think in Zimbabwe we have got big reasons to fight against USA or the Western world as a developing country. Okay, I believe that for us to take that pathway of China, we need to align ourselves with Washington. Whatever it is that these sanctions are all about, understand them and do what they say. It's about human rights, right? So what's difficult with that? It's about democracy, right? And I have been highlighting in the past 4 videos how this democratic, how you can set up a democratic state that will not lead to election rigging and stuff like that. And I told you that sovereigns are business entities, and even the whole global order of different countries is a one huge business apparatus of which the Western governments are in leadership. So those Western governments aren't really necessarily the population. The Western governments, if you look deeper, we are talking about the business interests in those Western governments. We're talking about the big businesses, the big banks, Goldman Sachs, we're talking about JP Morgan and Chase. We're talking about the Dow Jones stocks, like the Facebooks, the Apples of this world, and the, all of those multinationals which are domiciled in the United States and therefore express themselves as the government of the United States. But as I told you, it's actually business entities that we're dealing with here. So for Zimbabwe to win this race that is set upon us, we need to engage these global elites, these global companies, which manifest through the United States or manifest as the government of USA. But really, we know, I'm saying that deeper within it's DuPont, it's Pfizer, it's Triple M, it's Travelers, it's Coca-Cola, it's Berkshire Hathaway, it's BlackRock, it's there's a book of JP Morgan, it's the Federal Reserve, it's all of those companies, so to speak, that are global in nature, and they invest all over the place, and they're looking for frontier markets. And I've spoken before that Africa's got 1.2 billion people that are in poverty. We need to get the 1.2 billion people into the middle class to create an economy that is going to be the next growth engine for companies like Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and the rest of the others. Caterpillar, you name them. Caterpillar needs to be part of building Africa, US, the steel companies, not just USA, but including other British, European, and now the Eurasian companies as well that have come into the fray. The Chinese and the South Asian countries are having these big international conglomerates that are interested in international trade. You want to position Zimbabwe in that vein, okay, where it takes advantage of these global horsepowers that can empower a country. By liberating the economy, creating a free market economy, respecting ownership rights, improving the ease of doing business, understanding the nuances of your competitors in the West, understanding exactly what they want in your country, what they want in your neighbors, what they do not want, and managing those relations perfectly and carefully, and not being too overly puffed up and overly driven by the anti-US rhetorical sentiment or trying to please discerning voices that think that the United States is an oppressive government or whatever, like what they do in the Middle East, they end up getting to experience the wrath of the United States unnecessarily. So I'm saying that we need to get our priorities right. Our priorities isn't to become a superpower or to challenge superpowers. Our priority is to set a path forward for our own growth, for the development of our own people, financial and intellectual, creating a society that can compete in the global village. And we're competing across different structures and stratas of the economy and social well-being, which means that we're opening our country to the whole world. That therefore means that you are aligning yourself with the status quo. However, not being a timid little fellow who doesn't know how to stand up when Washington or tramples upon you unfairly or what have you. You need to go to Big Brother and say, no, Big Brother, you are wrong there. I don't like that. What do you think about how can we work this thing out? Instead of making the United States your sworn enemy. I don't believe in making United States our sworn enemy. At the same time, I don't believe in listening to everything that United States says and then just taking shivering and fearing as if a nation which doesn't have a god. No. You have got that reverence, that mutual respect for mutual growth. Because the United States does need, and their companies does need to develop this African growth engine, and they will need entrance points. And South Africa is sleeping because I don't think the ANC knows what it is doing. Therefore, you will need Zimbabwe, therefore, to step up. But of course, I'm being dreamy. At the moment, those things don't look like they are possible. But I've got a lot of faith. I hope that our words that we're speaking on this channel, they are not falling on rocks or on thorny bushes, but on fertile ground, so that our people can grow and develop, and the nation can develop. So having said that, good night. This is the last of the last. As I say it in my language, you call it last Tololo. Good night.